I use very specific search terms. I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this probably use similar search terms like best designed, blank,
Sure,
coolest, whatever. And when I did that for a shower cap, I always say that it wasn't that nothing came up, it was what did.
You're listening to Wellfed. I'm your host, John Sarantino, a designer based out of New York, and on each episode, I sit down to talk with one of my creative heroes. Individuals whose work, style, and ideas I admire and continue to be inspired by every day. We discuss their past, present, and everything in between. Hey, before we start, I'm trying out something new this season, and I need your help. I'll be releasing episodes every Tuesday until the final episode, and I'll be keeping my fingers crossed that I can keep up. I would love to get your feedback after every release, and I'll be giving away stickers and pins to everyone that helps out as a thank you. All you have to do is leave a review on Apple Podcasts or share the podcast on social media. Take a screenshot and DM it to me on Instagram or Twitter at Wellfed Podcast, and I'll send you some good old-fashioned snail mail. With that, enjoy the episode. On this episode, my guest is Jacquelyn DeJesu Center, the founder, CEO, creative director and inventor of the reinvented shower cap. Prior to starting her own company, she was an art director and creative at some of the biggest creative agencies in New York, including Saatchi & Saatchi, Huge, 360i, BBDO, and a ton more. Jacquelyn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Taking, some time out of your busy schedule, already being in the office. I see that you are on a ton of different work streams at the same time.
Thank you. Literally in 7 meetings.
And also congratulations, I think over the summer, Shower Cap officially turned 4.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's a big milestone.
Yeah, especially being self-funded.
Exactly. We'll talk a little bit about that. I know that you grew up in Long Island.
I did.
Your mother was a hairstylist and your dad owned a set company.
Yeah, set design.
Set design.
Set design and fabrication.
Could you tell me why some people refer to Long Island as Strong Island?
You know how people refer to Westchester as the Bestchester?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just a thing. It's like a tongue-in-cheek, ridiculous way to refer to where you're from.
A little bit of pride.
Yeah, a lot of pride.
A lot of pride.
Yeah.
I know, growing up in Jersey for the most part, I think a lot of the terms are dirty Jersey.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the prideful one is in that one,
exactly.
But what was young Jacquelyn doing?
What was I doing? So I was an only child, and a lot of times I talk about this. My parents are both really creative. So my house felt like a Michael's Crafts. My Saturdays were, trips to Pearl Paint, and I would just be able to spend $20 and, buy some supplies to make something that inspired me. There was a lot of that. My mom had a salon in the back of my childhood home, and my dad had a little mini set kind of building studio downstairs. So whether I wanted to play dress up and, do hair stuff back in the porch, or whether I wanted to go downstairs and build something or use my own kind of craft supplies with beads and Fimo clay. You know what Fimo clay is?
No. Female clay?
Fimo.
A Fimo.
Yeah, I don't even know what it stands for. I think that's what it's called. It's if you've seen those beads that are rolled in tubes and then sliced.
Okay. Does it look like foam?
No, you bake it.
Okay.
But it's not like a shrinky dink. You see these?
Oh, okay. So
the way that's made is you take all the different colors.
Yep.
And you roll it in a tube, and then the cross section is what makes the smiley face, or
It's like when you get the cookies with the Pillsbury cookies with the turkeys on
exactly.
them. So that's
it's exactly
basically
the
what
same
you were
thing,
making.
except you're making the turkey. You know what I mean? Or
That's great.
Yeah. I had every color.
You had a ton of different activities to do, whether it was hanging out with mom or hanging out with dad. You were keeping busy and making stuff with your hands.
Yeah, and always creative. And I was always hustling.
What was your hustle when you were a child?
I sold friendship bracelets on the beach.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you go to Mexico, you see kids selling friendship bracelets and they're with their parents. I was just making friendship bracelets and selling them on my own.
I think I have 2 younger sisters that were doing the same thing as kids. Everyone goes, sometimes everyone goes through that phase of I could buy 20 off of eBay.
Yeah. I really wanted to be on Broadway, musical theater. So I grew up on set because of what my parents did. You know, my mom like would cut hair and stuff at the house, but she was on the news. That was like her beat.
Okay.
She did like the morning news, the hair and makeup for the morning news.
Oh.
And my dad was always building stuff for TV. So like they'd pull me in and be the cute kid on set. You know, I was like 7. So I was just obsessed with like the stage and the screen. Less so now, but
Sure.
it just, I
Something
think it
when you were
makes,
younger.
yeah, it makes sense why I'm comfortable kind of doing this on a podcast, like why it feels natural, or why people always say that I'm so authentic.
You're just not afraid to say hi and be the loudest in the room.
Yeah, why not?
Same.
You
I
know?
feel the same way.
Yeah.
And you could walk into a room with 20 strangers and come out with at least one friend.
Yeah.
Completely.
Or 7.
Or most likely there's
Or
one
20.
one person in that room that'll hate you, but then everyone else will be like, hey, she's all right.
Yeah. I've kind of not been afraid to be polarizing, to be honest.
There you go.
I'd rather have people like feel intensely about me than have everyone feel kind of lukewarm.
One way or the other. You're either going to hate me or
Yeah,
you're going to
it means you're doing something right.
Completely.
You know?
You were always making, and it sounds like that was kind of consistent, and you
I
eventually you go to school for art and design.
Yeah.
You go to the University of Buffalo
I went
to
to
study
UV.
design and communications and advertising and marketing.
You really digged. You're like Nardwar.
I'm the designy nerd Nardwar. While you're in school, you have an internship with Massimo Goldstein.
Yeah.
And you come out of the program and you start to have these art director positions. And I'm curious if that was something that you had always had in mind, or if that was like an experience, something that you experienced during school or your time there, that you didn't necessarily take the route of being a designer, but you decided art direction was more something you were comfortable with.
So I actually did start out as a junior designer. That's where I got my first gigs, but I was trying to like work my way into advertising through the strongest skill that I had. I was conceptual, but I didn't go to VCU. I didn't go to Miami Ad School. I didn't go to a portfolio school. But my desire to be in advertising started when my dad always taught me, because he worked on set, that why the visuals weren't real effectively, so that I wouldn't be manipulated by them. So a good example is, like, I remember he was breaking down a McDonald's print ad, and he was like, those sesame seeds are glued on, that's not a bun, it's shaved and spray painted styrofoam, the meat is not deliciously greasy, that's Vaseline. And I was just fascinated by that, because he would do that so often, so that I wouldn't be manipulated by the images that I was seeing. But what it actually did was force me to like pay attention to the images that I was seeing in the media. And then what that evolved into is I wanted to be responsible for them, not in some heroic way. Like, I just loved the fact that there could be a shape in ice in a liquor ad, and like it would make you think that it was more delicious. Like, subliminal advertising was like fascinating to me. And when it came time to pick a major, I knew I wanted to not go to Pratt or SVA. I wanted to not be in an art school, and I also wanted to get out of the city. Because I'm from New York. You know, I wanted a college experience with like a big football team and a sorority and a huge campus. And so UB didn't really have an advertising program, but I did a mix of communication, psychology, and comm design. When I was choosing my majors and kind of trying to like hone my focus, my dad brought home a one-show annual from our like Long Island library. It was like in those books that you could buy for 25 cents.
The one show.
The one show.
Okay.
And I'll never forget it, because it was the one, if any old people are listening, it was the white one with the colored in pencil. Do you remember that one? It's like a blue color by number one-show pencil, and the rest is white. So the concept of that annual was like you could color it in, which at itself, like at a base level, is interesting. But I remember that I like flipped through it at 17, like cover to cover. And I was so fascinated by the fact that there were things that were winning awards for copywriting that had no copy on them, or like had 3 words.
So it's very conceptual in the thought.
And it was like how much storytelling could you tell through an image, you know? So yeah, that's when I went to advertising.
I think it's amazing that your dad was able to break. I picture you're sitting in the car and you're going through a billboard and he's pointing those details out to you at such a young age.
Yeah.
That kind of sticks with you.
Totally.
In a way that you then turn that to be like, you want to create the story, like very abstract. And then also, you know, not wanting to go to an immediate art school, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a big, I had a similar decision where I didn't feel connected to, say, like an SVA. Not that I applied to or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
I didn't have the book.
I
also, to clarify, I didn't have the portfolio to get into SVA.
Same. But I wanted, when I thought of college, I was like, oh man, I want to go to a game maybe and stuff like that. So I think it's really interesting to know that you could still have a similar experience and come out with the drive to want to be in that industry, be in the creative industry and advertising. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to the best school, but it's like more on you as a person.
I also think that it depends on your personality. Like, I've always been a self-starter. So what in fact happened in my career, or in my college career, was that I created my own major, which now I'm an entrepreneur. I invented a thing. I'm a quote unquote disruptor. Like, those things make logical sense. But even back then, I remember junior year wanting to graduate with an art direction degree, and I had to write a thesis of what classes would ladder up to what art direction meant to me. Mm-hmm. And it was like psychology, right? And a lot of classes weren't teaching that. It was color theory. It was general marketing 101, like the basic bitch marketing track. But I wound up doing like a senior thesis project where I put red dots on 1 in every 5 things around campus, blind. And yeah, it was about the prevalence of genital herpes. But
very interesting approach, but still, I mean, the concept and the message is there. Yeah,
I feel like I've always kind of been known for like larger than life, simple executions. Mm-hmm. Simple, powerful, clear. I don't want to say obvious.
But they're right there in front of you.
But they're right there in front of you.
Demanding attention.
Yeah, always a little bit cheeky. Mm-hmm. Like, that's been a theme in my career. But I wouldn't have had that project if I didn't go to an unconventional program or need to make my own special major. Mm-hmm. And like, that caught the attention of Tiffany Roth from Crispin at the time. You know, she's like the baddest bitch in advertising. And if I didn't have that project, I would have graduated with the same VCU book as everyone else. And when I would have tweeted at her, my book would have looked like everyone else's. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think everything happens for a reason.
When did you tweet at her?
In 2007 or 2008. She was asking for, what did she ask for? I think she was soliciting like young women's experiences in advertising because she had won an award at the 4As. And she wound up actually quoting me. I like wrote her a tweet, and then she wrote me an email and asked for more information. And I wrote her like this basically like rundown of my experience. And I was like, it's not sexist and it's not really a bias. It's like, in my experience, I've felt it most because I don't have the same things in common to bond with them over. Mm-hmm. So she took that and she kind of made it the point of women needing to stay in advertising and leadership positions because we should be able to bond over lipstick or quote unquote feminine things. Like, I shouldn't have to fake loving Star Wars just to bond with my creative director.
Completely.
You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, but she's been in my life since I've been 20, and now she's an advisor for Shower Cap. She's the best.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You eventually make your way working with huge brands. Orbit, you've worked with Lay's, you worked with Five Gum, you worked with
really Nardwuar.
The list is really expansive. You went to Saatchi and Saatchi, just huge agencies that like people aspire to go at. What do you take away from those experiences? You were at them for a pretty significant part of your career.
I mean, now being an entrepreneur, I actually talk about, I feel like that's where I got my MBA, mm-hmm. right? I didn't go to Harvard, I didn't go to Columbia. But I'd say like when it comes to business strategy and brand building from like the inside out, I understand it better than most. And why is that? And it's because of those experiences really early on. As a junior, if you need to create work off of a brief with best-in-class strategists, the work is going to be stronger because you're going to be pushed to make it stronger. And I think being in a really competitive environment, which advertising is notoriously competitive, it gives you a really healthy / borderline detrimental work ethic, and you don't know what comes first, chicken or the egg, But I think for me, especially when applied to entrepreneurship, that was one of the most eye-opening things, was like a lot of people have an idea and then they need to learn how to work hard enough to make something a reality. For me, I just transitioned the energy that I was giving to the agencies to building something for myself. But you don't realize how much you learn being surrounded by that many best-in-class kind of smart people at every level. The account people are the best account people, hopefully. The strategists are...
That's the most important, the account and finance department.
Exactly. And I think working on such a variety of clients made me feel really comfortable in kind of concepting for anything. And at the end of the day, like, the agencies have the big money, or at least they used to. So
it's sort of shifted since then, but
it has.
You worked on, at BBDO, you were on their energy sort of accounts.
Yeah.
And then at Saatchi & Saatchi, you kind of switched over to Miller and working sort of more on I don't know how you would classify some of the brands that you worked there.
So I started my career at BBDO in Chicago. Oh. At Energy BBDO in Chicago, it just is BBDO of Chicago, but I was working on all the Wrigley brands.
Wrigley.
So I started my career working on Orbit, Altoids, Altoid Smalls, 5-Gum, Extra.
Yep.
Look at that horn. That is extra. So that is like a really good example of, like, you put 5-Gum up against Orbit and they're completely different demographics. They're completely different, vibes, tones. You're shooting from completely different inspiration. You're concepting for a completely different person. The brand voice sounds completely different. One is aggro and like all about daredevils and like neon and explosions and like hyper photoshopped. And then Orbit, you're pulling Wes Anderson references. And you're pitching to the same Wrigley CMO. Like, I remember we would have master kind of creative reviews back to back, and I'd be pitching 5-Gum, and I'd stand a little taller, and then for Orbit, I would sit down. You change the way that you do everything and lean into the brand.
You almost have a different character.
Exactly.
And that's the presentation and selling of the creative work.
Exactly.
That's kind of, it's interesting now that you mention them when you're putting them up against each other, and how they have those different personality, how they align with different people. You eventually make your way to 360i.
Yes.
I didn't even know you were in Chicago. Do you make the move from Chicago to New York for 360i? Or, like in somewhere in between?
My trajectory, so I was a junior designer at Jack Morton, actually, in New York. And I was like searching for my first junior art director position, right? And then Chicago like wooed me. They paid real low, Nice. I could afford a 1-bedroom like as a kid.
That's awesome. And the opportunity
Chicago.
To move is like,
yeah.
I think everyone out of school or everyone when they're first looking is like, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing this now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I took it. I had to. I wanted to. But then when I came home, I freelanced a little bit. I like popped around at McCann. Was I at McCann? No, Digitas. And then Huge. And then 360i was the last place I was before Shower Cap.
Yeah, and it was only 5 or 6 months.
I'm all fucked up. Hold on. So I came home, freelanced at Digitas, started freelancing at Saatchi, transitioned to Saatchi full time, was at Saatchi for 2.5 years, had the idea for Shower Cap, left, and then was at Huge 360i, and then Huge co-collective 360i.
So
yeah, that's right.
It's interesting because the idea for Shower Cap starts way before 360i.
Way before. I was in development for 2 years.
And it's just been kind of scratching at the back of your head, just saying like, just kind of molding and gaining traction like a snowball. What was that first aha moment?
There was no building like a snowball. I went to go look for a shower cap. I was at Saatchi for about 2 years. And I went to go look for a shower cap because I was an art director, right? Like my entire home was curated. You look around my office right now, it's like this table is a beautiful glass table. This bottle is
very intentional in the choices.
It's intentional decisions.
Yep.
And because I do that with everything from, the soap that I use to the air conditioner I buy, I use very specific search terms. I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this probably use similar search terms like best designed, blank,
sure,
coolest, whatever. And when I did that for a shower cap, I always say that it wasn't that nothing came up, it was what did. So it was bows, it was sequins, it was Miss Muffet shapes, it was like all awful. But what inspired me the most was that I was a brand builder and there was no brand. There was no brand that was owning this conversation. There was no brand that was speaking to me the way that a consumer who was not washing her hair every day wanted to be spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
And that really was the inspiration. It was like how bad everything was. But then on top of all of that, there was no category leader.
I think a lot of creative people continue to make work for other, like for other brands, for other people, for other gigs and projects. And this is sort of an instance where you decide that you're going to stop doing that. You make the switch. Is that something mentally that you have to prepare yourself for? Or do you just say, like, I'm done working for other people and I really want to follow this through?
I think I've never really fit in corporate America. I have no tolerance for bullshit. I'm not really good at faking it. I feel like I'm choking if I can't speak my mind. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're a woman in advertising, especially, in 2013 when I had the same kind of like precocious ballsiness that like cut my way for the first probably 5 years of my career turned into something that was actually a threat for higher ups. And once you become a threat for higher ups, it's different. It's a different feeling. You're not like touted and like you're silent.
You're stepping on eggshells. You
exactly.
feel like you're tiptoeing around.
Yeah, or people like negate you in meetings, or you know what I mean? It's just like, so I think I was ready to make a leap into something, whether it was a new agency or, explore, a different way to use my skills potentially. And I couldn't not do this. It almost felt too obvious. Like I was like, how has no one done this yet? Why are the options so bad? And also like, oh my God, what if someone's working on this idea right now? Like I have to start immediately.
Sure, you have to be the first.
I have to be the first. Yeah. And like, if I don't start running as fast as I can right at this second to try to make something that women actually want to wear in this space, I'm going to watch Shark Tank and I'm going to see someone else do it.
Of course.
And I will never, ever, ever forgive myself. And I think that there's something different that happens when you're that passionate about something. And for me, I was just obsessed. Like it felt like my get out of jail free card, Mm-hmm. And it's not true in any capacity. This is the hardest thing and most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my life. But like, I knew in my heart of hearts that it was going to be big. So I just like couldn't wait to get it right. And I couldn't wait to get it out into the world. And that makes it easy to take a risk, I think.
And your last gig was 360i.
Yes.
5-6 months in, you decide this is the time, this is the moment. Mentally, what was the preparation? Do you just walk in one day and say, hey, guys, it's been great 5 months. I got this thing going now, and I'm going to go see it through, and then just leave? Like, you just like walk in, hey guys, bye.
I was permalancing,
Mm-hmm.
so like, I was pretty upfront with a lot of the agencies that I was freelancing with, and especially like my partners or my CDs, like I tried to be respectful, but I also tried to make sure that it was clear that like I was working on something that I thought was going to be big. And I was permalancing at 360i, and we were talking about transitioning to full time. It was then where I just realized it was ready to go. So I wasn't really waiting for anything. I was more like running as fast as I could to get the product right. And as soon as the product was really right and I had my final sample and I was ready to shoot the lookbook, that's when I was also talking to them about full time. And I was like, if I give you full time, then I'm never going to be able to give this my all. I think it's relevant, it's really important to have people that support you, and reputations are also really important. And I had built great relationships there. So one of the nicest and fairest things that anyone said to me during the process was my creative director, Megan Skelly, who is amazing. She was like, I know this is your time and I know you have to go do it, but just know that like wherever I am, you'll have a full-time job.
That's cool.
And that was a safety net, you know, even just psychologically. Mm-hmm. Thank God I never had to like,
but it's almost like she
cash in that chip.
She has the confidence in you. You say something like that, but you're like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna kill this.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I'll be here to support you and like, help you out.
Yeah, which was just, I think, like one of the coolest, most incredible things that anyone could have said to me at that time. Mm-hmm. You know, and there was a lot of that. There were haters, but like I think mostly like people were pretty excited.
You had mentioned that you're self-funded.
Yeah.
And I know, obviously, that means that you're putting your own money up. Is there a range or a number that you could potentially give an idea of what something like that takes for someone to... I think anyone who listens to this, a lot of people in New York, I'm sure young creatives, have a ton of amazing ideas, but they're not so familiar and fluent in like sourcing a manufacturer and finding a business partner and figuring out logistics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What is a good starting point for someone tomorrow to say, like, I need to obtain this to get to my goal of potentially funding myself for the next 6 months, year, whatever it may be?
I think the best advice is make sure you have freelance gigs. Mm-hmm. You know, that was also a safety net for me, was I knew that I had recruiters on deck. And even if 1 year into me actually on my trajectory of launching Shower Cap with success, I was still getting emails for, hey, do you want this gig? 1 week, 2 weeks, just a weekend push for a pitch. And if that's there, then you'll always be able to gig on something. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Also, we've definitely put money in, and my husband is pretty successful too, but we sold $15,000 worth of shower caps in the first 10 days of showercap.com going live.
Wow.
So it's been pretty explosive since that first day in 2015. Mm-hmm. And I think the best place to start is make sure that your supply chain supports itself and that it's scalable, and that your product supports the margins and you're not pricing yourself to be solely D2C.
I mean, all of this language, right? Like all this vocabulary is something that even myself,
it's like so much jargon.
There's so much. But no, how much of that did you have to learn on the fly?
I don't know. It's like when you lose 100 pounds, but you like look in the mirror every day and then you go to a party and people are like, eat a burger. It kind of just happens. Like when you're constantly curious and you're constantly talking and you're constantly growing and striving for more, I don't think you even realize how much you learn or when you learn it, you know, but...
It's just being in so many conversations forces yourself to, if you hear a word you don't know, it's like, I gotta Google, I gotta define that immediately, because the next meeting I gotta know exactly what he's talking about, or I'm gonna lose track, end up screwing myself later on down the road.
Yeah, but I think also in those early days, you need to stay curious, you need to ask questions. It doesn't hurt to be humble and ask someone to clarify. Everyone wants to help. I think that's the other thing is like entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs that are a couple of years ahead always want to help identify other entrepreneurs that they think that they can bet on, you know? And that's not even from an investment standpoint. Like it feels like people want to help, and that's always been true. And I think that that's important to remember is like none of them had all the answers, you know? And I think because of that, I mean, now I'm in that position, you know, if anyone's listening and wants to DM me about something, I'll try to make myself available. But you want to pay it forward. You empathize, and the curiosity and the way that you approach what you don't know is one of the things that people respect the most. You
mentioned that being a female founder, standout business owner in the New York community, in the entrepreneur community, you are also looking to kind of uplift other women that are doing great things and creating great products.
Yeah.
I might not be a female, but I brought a few ideas that I want to pass by you for Shower Cap that I think could be really big money makers.
For Shower Cap?
For Shower Cap.
Okay, you know. Be careful, because if I like them, then we're going to have to edit it out. No one can know what I'm launching, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think For an immediate release,
Yes.
we should think about maybe doing a shower cap pet line.
Okay.
So like little chihuahuas running around with bright pink and some of the Ajax
like
pattern.
little small ones.
And then maybe even some for their feet, because
Okay.
that's a thing that people do
in
New York.
I like that.
I'm thinking
On like April 1st, right? Yeah, like an April Fool's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No. I mean, it's like April 1st, but like it goes on.
It goes on. Yeah.
The next one, I think.
Collab with what? Petco or
Chewy,
Chewy, yeah.
Chewy.
Yeah, D2C.
So that's idea one.
Okay, great.
Idea two.
Hit me.
I think shower caps for your wine glasses, so you can also take a shower with your wine. Shower cap.
Chic.
Shower wine cap.
Does it have a hole in it for a straw?
I think that's
Or like a sippy cup
another
situation?
another possibility to collab.
Okay, great.
And then my last one would be shower caps for the sneakerheads, but
to put on the sneakers for when it's
but
raining.
for the sneakers,
Dope.
to keep the heat nice and dry and clean.
I like that.
I think that's also a big one.
I'm big on the third one.
Do we think all of them, or you want to just take
Alex
one?
Center would also be big on the third one.
So
Yeah.
we'll work out the paperwork afterwards.
Yeah. I'll take all of them.
This is great. So, as I mentioned, Shower Cap is hitting 4 years old.
Yeah.
You've been featured in Vogue, Fast Company, the New York Times. You made it into an episode of Insecure on HBO.
Yeah.
So many amazing things.
Thanks.
Again, how much of that is like your
This
own
is nice.
doing?
You should be in my office the whole time.
I'll just be your hype man.
Yeah.
Just a Shower Cap, like official hype guy.
Yeah.
I think, like another great idea that I think you should probably invest in is like the guy from Dr. Pepper, Mr. Little Sweet. I
don't
could
know
be your
him.
Little Sweet for Shower Cap.
Oh, that's cute. That's really cute.
I think, I think really this podcast is just a way for me to give you my investment ideas.
Yeah. I love it. So I think, what did you ask? Like, how much of it is me?
Yeah, how much of getting into the public eye and getting the word out there has been just pure example of drive and a ruthless consistency?
I'd say like 1,000%, but on the back end, our growth and the way that we market and the caps that we make and achieving that growth and that scale. I'm, I think, our best publicist, but the product sells itself on shelf. That's a design solution, right? And the team here is just so strong and smart and amazing and passionate. I'm out there running my mouth, and I have been since 2013, literally talking to any girl with hair about how often she washes it and what products she uses. But I think that everyone here has played such a big part in making us what we are today.
I went ahead and went as far as started to digging into YouTube to look up Shower Cap, and I don't think I found one bad review.
Yeah.
I think everything was, and I think now I wanted to bring this up because I think now it's kind of a moment of, you're 4 years old. At a release now, it's almost standard for a company to hit up influencers and reach out and do those things because that's kind of like part of the brand rollout.
Yeah.
But, you switch that filter on to be the most recent uploads, and the first 5 are positive reviews, girls hanging out with each other and reviewing and talking about how great this product has been for them. And some of them have even mentioned that they don't wear it only in the shower. How is this thing that was made for the bathroom evolved into like an accessory now for your everyday life?
How does it evolve? I think that's the power of design, right? Is like, I hate to say it like this, but the product solution is such that now they want to spend more time with it. What existed in the category before, women wanted to take off before they even put it on. Or they didn't want to put it on at all. And now, because we've thoughtfully solved for a better experience, and part of that is that it actually is pretty fashionable in the color and the print and the silhouette, that's now encouraging them to find other ways to spend time with the thing that they bought for $43. And I think that it does go back to how much time we spent making sure that it was right. How much time we spent making sure that the product delivered on everything that we said it would. Because there's a trust there, there's a loyalty, like they love it in such a real way that they want to bring it on vacation. They want to wear it in the pool. They want to sleep in it with a hair conditioning mask. Like, they're trying to almost hack this thing to find other ways. You know, they're buying a second one, keeping it in their bag. So I don't know exactly how it happens, but I think that it comes back to the brand we've built and the trust that we've built with our customers.
Mm-hmm. This year has been a big changing year for myself amongst doing this podcast. I've recently grown my hair out fairly long, and I'm hoping that you could help me out a little bit with the hair care.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, am I supposed to wash it every day?
You're definitely not supposed to wash it every day. Let me clarify that right now. Mm-hmm. Your luxurious locks.
Thank you.
They're
it's up in a bun right now.
Yeah. How long are they?
It's pretty long, about shoulder.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Dope. How long are you gonna grow it?
I keep it shoulder. I give it a trim every once in a while, because once it gets too long, it's like a little bit.
Yeah.
I start to find it everywhere in my room.
Yeah. I mean, look around my office. It's like literally hair clusters of me and everyone else. Like, all my girls have like the longest, craziest hair.
Yep.
So yeah, you're definitely not supposed to wash it every day. You probably should use a shower cap. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of guys that use shower caps.
Oh, awesome.
But what I would suggest is cutting down to once every other day. That's okay. A good place to start.
I'm all ears.
Let your scalp balance out. Mm-hmm. And then it also, I think, for like a style like yours, is like a cool look when it has a little oil in it.
A little bit of grease, a little little season.
Yeah, a little season.
I'm all into it.
And then dry shampoo is huge. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't use dry shampoo.
I should go find some.
Yeah.
What are some of the big plans for shower cap coming in the future?
World domination.
World domination.
Yeah, just
all showers, all bathtubs.
All showers, completely ubiquitous, like world domination everywhere from here to Indonesia.
I
just
don't doubt it.
Not one shower without me. Not one household with a girl that doesn't own one in her favorite print or her favorite color. I think for us, from a company perspective, like, we're really focused on building the team out, nurturing our incredible retail partnerships, making sure that all of the people in our ecosystem are growing personally and professionally. And I think we're at a time in the brand's growth where, like, we're set to just really explode. I'm joking about world domination, but I'm also, like, actually not
joking.
I'm not joking.
Completely.
Yeah, so I think just continuing to do what we do, you'll also start to see a little bit more of us from a brand perspective. We're diversifying away from Facebook and, like, allocating our dollars in more creative ways, because we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money on digital media and paid social, and I really think that great brands are built in human connection, and this is our time to do that. That's been really exciting to start to work on, like, how much we can do just even by siphoning off a little bit about, you know, what we used to spend just, like, popping up in your feed.
Sure.
Because the team is really strong creatively, so, like, making sure that that's showcased as well. Making more stuff.
Where can people stay up to date with what's happening with Shower Cap?
So it's at Shower Cap.
3 H's.
3 H's. SHHHOWERCAP. That's our handle on everything. We're not really on Pinterest. Is anyone on Pinterest anymore?
I don't know. It's so many. It's like, now I need to learn how to dance to be on TikTok.
I want to be on TikTok. Yeah, we're about to blow on TikTok.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just such a fun thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think this product on TikTok is going to slay.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do yet, but stay tuned.
It's coming.
So, yeah, Shower Cap on TikTok. And then, yeah, my personal is at DeJesu. But I think, you know, for me, it's more behind the scenes, entrepreneurial, like, founder, real life, authenticity, sound bites, you know, how to build. And then for Shower Cap, it's much more like the polished brand, you know?
Completely.
We're also launching, actually, when does this come out?
Probably after the new year.
Oh, great. So we will have launched season 3, which is really big for us, and we're really excited. Hopefully you've seen it and are impressed, but I briefed in the team yesterday as of the recording on this podcast, and it's just really strong, powerful, I think will be inspiring work. So I don't know what we're referencing if it's coming out in the new year.
Future.
Yeah, but by then it will be live. So new prints, new colors, Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jacquelyn, for taking the time today.
Thank you. It was fun.
This podcast is produced by me, John Sorrentino, out in Jersey City, New Jersey. Editing, mixing, and music are all done by my friend Kevin Bendis in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Definitely check him out. You can find out more about Wellfed and where to listen at wellfedpodcast.com or on social media at Wellfed Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.